As you can tell, these spiels of mine are totally unscripted. I just kind of say what's on my mind. Usually, I have a little bit of an agenda, something that I want to talk about. So, today I want to talk about my Bob Dylan project. And the good news is that I just got confirmation that a mini term course that I had proposed to teach for next spring has been accepted, and it's on Bob Dylan. So I'm going to be teaching this mini term. The mini term courses are kind of wedged in between our sessions, regular sessions, and give students the opportunity to learn something that they normally don't study. So it's like a 4-day, very intensive course. It's not, you don't get graded, but you get credits, and it's required by all students to take at least one. So it's a great opportunity to teach something that you don't normally teach. And I've never taught a course on Bob Dylan before. The course is called Bob Dylan, American Songwriter, and it's going to be about his songwriting in particular, mostly focusing on lyrics and putting his songwriting into context of the times in which he wrote. And keeping in mind that, we have 5 solid decades of Dylan output. And I'm really only I'm most familiar with his stuff from the 60s, a little less familiar with his music from the 70s and onward. So that's one thing that I'm trying to do. So I have this ongoing project where I'm going album by album through Dylan's work. And I've gotten through the 60s, all the albums that he made in the 60s. And now I'm getting into the 70s. And I have to admit that I'm slowing down. I've been kind of slowing down on this project, partly because of motivation. It's just I'm not as knowledgeable of his music at this stage, and the songs don't quite inspire me the way that his earlier work does. I really think that the 60s is the kind of Dylan's golden period. But you could say that he did some of his best work in the 70s too. I'm looking forward to getting to Blood on the Tracks, which is probably hands down my favorite album of his. I have so many personal memories of that album. It was the first album of his that I really got into, I became a Dylan fan with that album. I was familiar as a kid growing up with some of his classic tunes, and my dad liked Bob Dylan, so I would listen. I'd hear him now and then, but I wasn't really into him till I listened to Blood on the Tracks. So that's coming up. That'll be exciting. I've done a few songs already. I think I've posted a few of the songs from Blood on the Tracks, but I think I already know pretty much how to play every one of those songs. But the ones that come before Blood on the Tracks and the ones that come after, I'm much less familiar with. So it's going to be kind of groping through new territory. And, compared to the Beatles, which I polished off the Beatles in like 2 months. I did all their songs, 180 something songs of theirs, and posted them. That was the first project I did for this channel. And for me, the Beatles were pretty easy because I knew at least a third of their songs already, knew how to play them. And I can, I've memorized most of the Beatles songs by heart over the decades of listening to them. So the ones that I didn't know already, it was pretty easy. Not easy. It's never easy with the Beatles. I put easy in scare quotes, but, I was able to pick up the songs relatively quickly because I know them so well. So I was able to go through the entire Beatles output in the span of like 2 or 3 months. And I was excited to do it too. I had a lot of energy for that project. So with Bob Dylan, it's a little different because, like I said, I'm very familiar with a lot of his stuff from the 60s. And then it's sort of sporadic. I know a few songs here and there, but I never really followed Bob Dylan's career, and he just has so much output. I mean, I think he's got over 600 songs throughout his career, so that's a huge set of songs to go through. My dad thinks I'm nuts But anyway, it's been, so far it's been a good project. It's really forced me to dig deeper into some of his stuff that I didn't really know well. So, for example, the album John Wesley Harding, which I was listening to while I was back in the U.S., traveling a lot over the summer, and I kept putting it on while I was driving, and I was going through song by song, and I really ended up digging that album. It's just such a great album. It represents kind of a turn in his career where he gets more systematic in his songwriting. I mean, before then, his songs were kind of free-flowing. His verses were notoriously endless, and his poetry was hard to decipher. I mean, that's part of the fun part about it, of course. But it was sort of a stream of consciousness, and it didn't make a lot of sense. Some of his songs, some made more sense than others. But then, we think of the big turn as his electric turn, but I think that was just one big turn of his. The other big turn is that he becomes much more systematic and precise as a songwriter, starting with John Wesley Harding. The songs follow a distinctive formula. It's usually 3 verses with a bridge somewhere in the middle, usually after the second verse. And the tunes themselves, the chords are pretty simple. The way that you have, his great inspirations in folk music and the blues, simple chord changes, and the lyrics get more profound and subtle. And also, I would say he kind of starts to take a religious turn with John Wesley Harding, with the album. So I really enjoyed going through that album. One of my favorites is the Ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest. Let me just go back. I've got this Bob Dylan book. I've been going through this great book of Bob Dylan songbook. It's got 600 of his songs. It's pretty amazing. And very well, it's got the tabs. So, yeah, John Wesley Harding. The Ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest. Frankie Lee is the gambler, and Judas plays this kind of mysterious role in the song, and it's a story, so you can follow the story, but it's very dreamlike, and obviously very strongly influenced by the Bible, and yet with Dylan's own, it's kind of like the Bible meets the Wild West sort of story. There seems to be a brothel in the story, a bordello. There's a gambling house. It's almost like as if the story, the biblical story took place in the Wild West, and Judas Priest was like a moneylender, and Frankie Lee was a gunslinger or something. It's got that sort of vibe to it. So that was a great song, and I really loved kind of listening to that and trying to understand the song. And there were others. It's a really great collection of songs. John Wesley Harding, I feel like it's maybe one of his most underestimated albums. But I suppose real Dylan fans would know this album well and would appreciate it. Dear Landlord, The Lonesome Hobo, Pity the Poor Immigrant. So it's sort of character portraits, The Wicked Messenger. And again, they're all very pithy, kind of little parables. They seem to have a moral component to them. So that was great fun. And of course, it closes with I'll Be Your Baby Tonight, which is a real fun romp. So I think, Dylan still kept, even though he was getting darker and more kind of mysterious, and turning into the sort of soothsayer, but he still kept a bit of a lightheartedness with that album. And then there's Nashville Skyline, which I've always loved that album. I've had that album for many, many years and listened to it umpteen times. So I know that album pretty well. To Be Alone With You. I mean, these are great classic songs. I Threw It All Away. Peggy Day. That's such a fun song to play. Lay Lady Lay, probably his most iconic song from that album. One More Night, Tell Me It Isn't True. Country Pie. That's a fun country-ish song. Tonight I'll Be Staying Here With You. Beautiful song ending that album. So yeah, I knew that album well, and I was able to get through it fairly quickly. And then Self-Portrait I haven't gotten to. So for some reason, next on my list was New Morning. And New Morning is it's kind of a mixed bag. It's been a little harder for me to get into this album. It starts with If Not For You, the song that George Harrison also performed. I guess they wrote it together, and that's a wonderful song. And they do it very differently. George and Bob play it very differently on their respective albums. But that's a great song. And I've done that one before, so that was pretty easy. But then you have Day of the Locusts, a bit of a strange song. The Locusts Sang. But I like that one. Time Passes Slowly. Went to See the Gypsy. I like that one. Went to See the Gypsy. That's a fun song. Kind of a mysterious song. Winterlude is sort of like a little, kind of like a barn dance, little romp, a little waltz that sounds very kind of countrified. If Dogs Run Free. And what else do we have here? Yeah, the title song "New Morning," which I think is very upbeat and a nice song. And then "Sign on the Window," I think is one of my favorites. That one just I don't know. There's something very haunting about that song, "Sign on the Window." Also very kind of folksy. One More Weekend Is Fine. It's like a bluesy romp. And another kind of happy-go-lucky song. I mean, it's nice to see the lighter side of Dylan, because you get a little tired of his heavy stuff, and you want a little lightness. It's nice to have that light and dark combination. And then "The Man in Me," I think, is one of his more iconic songs from this album. Very like approachable song. It's more like a kind of a classic pop song, almost like I don't know, almost feels like a Motown song, or almost like a gospel song. And then "Three Angels," which is more of it's a spoken song, so it's a little more storytelling. Some good imagery there. It obviously has some kind of, it's related to Christianity, maybe his deepening beliefs in Christianity, and maybe the secularization of the world and how people have ignored sort of the more mystical aspects of the world. That's a really beautiful one, although it's a spoken song. And then finally, "Father of Night," which is definitely woo. Okay, talk about God there, and that's a nice hymn to end his album. So finally, I kind of pushed myself to get through it. And I just finished it today. And next we're going to, we'll see what we go. I haven't decided what my next album is going to be. Whether I'm going to slog through Self-Portrait or not. That's going to be a tough one. But I'm using the inspiration from knowing that I'm going to be teaching this mini-term course is kind of propelling me forward once again. And I'm hoping that I can get some more momentum. Also, I've been running around involved in a documentary film project and traveling a lot. And now I'm kind of, the next 2 months, I'm more or less back, back here in Kunshan where I can make more time for this project and for other sundry other projects that I'm involved in. So it's kind of nice to be able to, after a lot of time being on the road, it's nice to kind of come back and get some stable, steady time to work on my music practice and work on other research projects of mine. So that's all I have to say for today. Thank you for listening. If you're out there, give me a thumbs up or give me, I'd love to see comments. However you want to, communicate would be great. And I hope this project inspires others to take a deeper look into Bob Dylan or to engage with a project like this themselves. I mean, I think it's, I'm not looking for a big audience, obviously. This is a very sort of personal project that I'm involved in right now. But, I think for any musician, it is a good idea to get into a practice where you're recording yourself, where you're trying to learn a song well enough to be able to play it smoothly, sing it smoothly. As everybody knows, I'm more of a singer and player than I am a player itself. I don't really work on guitar pieces for their own sake. For me, guitar, the beauty of guitar is that it's there to accompany you as a singer, and you can take it anywhere you want. And that's what I love about guitar. I love piano too, and I've been a piano player all my life. But I feel like somehow there's like more of an intimacy to guitar, and guitar lends itself better to the craft of the singer-songwriter than piano. I'm not dissing piano or saying it's not. Obviously a lot of great songwriters have come out of piano. Billy Joel, Elton John, the list goes on. Paul McCartney did a lot of songs on piano. But I just feel like personally sitting there with a guitar in hand, strumming the guitar, singing, having, facing your audience, having total eye contact with them, that's more the way to do it. Piano, you're sort of in your own world. I love piano, like I said, and I love getting lost in the piano. But guitar is kind of my main vehicle for the art of singing and playing and songwriting and all that. So I do try to build my craft, and I have tons of books on guitar, and I do try to learn new things. But I'm still, by any serious guitar player's standard, I'm still kind of working my way up there, from the cowboy chords to the more sort of, the full fretboard. So that's a real process and a challenge, especially if you focus a lot on singing. And that's all I'm going to have to say for today. I think I've gone on long enough and used enough of your time. So take care, everybody, and see you next time.